So I keep starting to do this tutorial and failing because, as you see, there are so many different kinds of these guys, and these are just the ones that are in a box next to my bed. There are so many more. I give them away and stuff. But thank you to the people on r/knots who told me it would be a good idea just to focus on one of them. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm not a very good maker or editor of videos, but I will try to put timestamps in the description. And also I'll demonstrate the knots, but there are lots of other great knot tutorial channels on YouTube who can probably film it much clearer and better than I can. So I'll show you how I do it, but then I will tell you what knot it is so that you can go and look that up. So I'm going to cut the video and then I'll show you which ones we're going to actually make. It's going to be these guys. So these guys are exactly the same, just this guy has like a thingy in his head. I don't know what that's called. This is good if you want to make keychains. This one doesn't, and this is the one I'm going to demonstrate because I don't have any more of these thingies. So let me just go through it also, because then that's easier to know which knots you need before you start. I'll try to bring it closer. The head is a diamond knot, but it's a two-stranded diamond knot. And for the project, you're going to need like 2 strings of the same length. Depends on how thick the rope is, how much you need. With paracord, I use about 1 meter. So instead of making a diamond knot as you usually would start like so, you're going to do exactly the same, but with 2 sets of strings. So it's important that you hold them parallel. This is probably the hardest knot to do of the bunch. So if you start and you get discouraged, like literally do not worry, because if the knot comes out all lumpy, you can put air drying clay over its head, or heat moldable plastic, or anything like that that you don't have to bake in the oven. So if you mess up, do not despair. This is literally the hardest bit. So from then on, we have like 1 endless falls knot. That's what they call it in macrame. I'm not sure what they call it elsewhere. So this is the front, and this is the back of your little guy with very like good whatever those muscles are, trapezoids up there. The shoulders are super easy. Those are just overhand knots. These are snake knots. These are what you'd call a barrel knot, or also a double or triple overhand knot. Depends on how much string you have left. And then the hands and feet can be of literally any stopper knot you like. You can do a figure 8. I believe these ones are actually a figure 8. And he's got barrel knots for feet. This one has barrel knots for hands and feet. And I do also like, I like doing what I guess you would call also a diamond knot or a Turk's head. The naming of knots is weird. You could also do an Ashley stopper knot there. But I'll see how much we have left before we begin. So this is the guy we're gonna do. And when I am starting out and making the diamond knot, you actually, by the time you're done with the knot, this is, oh gosh, it's hard to show on the camera, but you basically want to have just over 1/3 for your arms, and I suppose just under 2/3 for the legs. So the easiest way to do that is to start your knot with one side being shorter, the other side being longer, and then shimmy as you go. So the only reason why this gets a little bit difficult is because you can see the string starts out both strands running parallel, but when you make that first loop to form a carrick bend, or the beginning of the diamond knot, you actually have to twist that loop, right? So you can see that it's running parallel on this side, but if I trace that around my finger, you can see it crosses there. So the easiest way to get rid of that is to just twist this around in the beginning. It's worth making sure they lie parallel and neat to begin with, because if one starts to get longer or shorter, it will become more difficult later. Then you form the rest of the carrick bend as you normally would by going under this loop, underneath these strands, and through this loop here. And then now is the best time to check when hopefully everything is lying flat and parallel to itself, and when we flip it over, it's also not twisted in any way. So obviously what you do to make it a diamond knot and not a carrick bend is to go around that and through the middle, but to do that on both sides. So we grab the ends, make sure we go around the bit that's still attached to the finger. I shouldn't have had a Monster energy drink today. Make sure to keep that middle bit on your finger because you still need it for the other side. And make sure as well that these are running nice and parallel. So the other side, we've got this coming out the middle, and we want this similarly to go around that loop and through. So eventually, once you've tightened up the knot, this loop that is around my finger right now will disappear into the head. That's why this thing has another end on it, but that end is buried inside of its head. So I'm going to collapse it. You can also, if you want to have two loops hanging out, sticking out of the head, you can, but I don't like that it's two, so that's why I always put one of the metal things. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to cut the video, and then I'm going to do this in a separate clip where I do it really fast, because my brain will be able to cope with the editing of that. So before I speed anything up, I just want to mention that to start, don't tighten any of your knots too much, because you might have to work them back and forth a bit, because you need one short end and one long end, but this short end is a bit short. So for the first few passes through, just very gently make sure the rope is lying parallel to itself. And the cool reason they call it a diamond knot obviously is because it has a bunch of facets, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to keep in mind that all of those facets should be roughly about the same size. So if you over tighten it, it starts getting wonky. I always over tighten stuff, I'm terrible, but yeah, so I'm just going to keep going from here, but speed it up. so theoretically future me would have sped that up, but that took about 7 minutes. If you get confused about which way you're going, remember one of them is going through the center. This is not perfect, but I'm gonna try to stop making everything perfect. So by now you should have one shorter side and one longer side. This is the endless falls knot. It might be a reverse endless falls knot, but this is just how I learned to tie it. With your short end, you're going to just do a crisscross at the back right there. Ooh, that was not a good place to hold it. So crisscross, this is the front, and then these two go through each side. There and there. The best way I've found to tighten this is to pull gently on the crisscross part. This is going to be the back of your neck. You see there's always going to be one a bit longer, but you can get it as even as possible and pull those loops out the back, and then you've got some time to adjust. And I feel like that looks quite neat and tidy. And then flip it over. So this is the front of your little guy's neck. This is the back. There can always be more fiddling around. This is at some stages you'll want to not tighten everything before proceeding, but this is one of those times when you want to get it how you want it to eventually look. So I usually spend quite a bit of time on this part. So the easy way to tell if it's the front or the back is that this one comes down all the way and this one forms more of like a little circle that's got a bit around either side. So if you flip it to the front, you'll see that this naturally, the front part of the knot naturally tends forward, and from now on it gets super easy. If you are currently crying with a bunch of tangled string in your hands, don't worry, like this can be a whole ass mess. You can do this, keep your mess, and then just proceed from here. The cool thing about the human body is it has bilateral symmetry. So for every knot we do on the one side, we want to do the reverse of that knot on the other side. So we're going to do an overhand knot around the short part of the string on this side. Going to go around the back and come in through the front and tighten that up. And then we're going to go the opposite way on the other side, but still out at the back, through into the front. So this is also another good place to tighten these up. The arms may look a bit wonky, but we'll finish them off later. In terms of tensioning, this is the time you want to flip it over and make sure that all these little circles are lining up and that this is fairly tight around these bits of rope. So you can do some variations here, like make a chest and hips and other things of that nature, but I'm just going to do the simplest version, which is that we will now be taking our longer bits of cord and making a snake knot. I'm gonna like physically cut the video again because it's gonna be easier to edit that way. Okay, so there are many ways to do snake knots, but this one is mine. Unfortunately, a snake knot is not symmetrical. One side will always be higher than the other, and I will just have to cope with that. So a snake knot is also kind of in essence an overhand knot. It's two things doing an overhand knot at once. So you take your right hand side cord underneath the other one and over to the other side, and then you take what is the left-hand cord, and you're always going to want to put it around the cross, whether you're doing a left-handed or a left spiraling or a right spiraling snake knot. And I also like to make these really tight, otherwise eventually when it all stretches out you get a little gap here. And for the proportions, you can draw the proportions you want on a piece of paper, and then as you're doing it, measure it up to that. But I make lots of these, so I'm going to guess that we're going to do about 3 or 4 snake knots over here. You can like ponder your little dude, be like, are you a short torsoed fella or a long torsoed fella? You can also check how much rope you have left. I feel like I'm gonna run out of space on the legs, so we're gonna make him a little guy, just a little guy. Okay, so the next part is the barrel knots. This might also be a bit complicated if you're not used to making barrel knots. So I'm going to cut again and we will go from there. One thing that helps me a lot is to have a stick, especially if you're running out of rope. It's easier to twist around a stick than around your fingers. So the way I like to remember this is, because I've tested it, you want to do it with him flipped over, so this is his back, right? And the way I first learned how to make these knots is by going around your finger this way, but when because of the bilateral thing, you want it to be spiraling in the other direction. So if I'm doing it this way, and I'm used to doing it this way, that means that this is the way that I'm not so used to doing this. You see, if you fold that guy up, he'd be symmetrical. So the way I get around this is either by doing the one I'm not that used to first, or by doing them both at once with the stick. It's not magic, it's just a stick. So if I was going to go this way, that means the stick would have to be here. And that means, see, we've got it wrong. That would be this way. And it's easy to remember because while you're doing one, you can keep one on the other side. I'm just going to show. So they're both coming from the back, going to the front. And because you want to make it as close as possible to the snake knots, that's another reason why having the string is great. So I'm going to do the side I'm not used to first. I'm going to wrap 1, 2. Again, there are probably better tutorials for this out there. And then I'm going to slide it out of the stick and go through. Because it is, they should theoretically be spiraling in 2 different ways. This one you would want to tighten by going anti-clockwise. Widdershins. So when I'm twisting it, I'm going towards myself. Okay. And don't tighten it up too much now because we'll want it to match the other one later. Just make sure that you've got it fairly close to the snake knots. Now, because this is the way I'm used to, I know we would be going this way. That way. And again, I go 1, 2, 3, and go through those loops there. Oh no, the snagging is real. Or I'm going to do all of that again and hopefully cut it out of the video, or maybe I won't be good enough for that, but that's fine. 3. And you can also use a paracord fid for this. I do have one, I'm just too lazy to put it on. And because this is going the other way, when you tighten it, you'll twist away from you, not towards you. And you can tell if you've gone the right way, because as you can see, that little guy's tucking in from that side and that one's tucking in from this side. And this is when you can tighten them. And this is when I wish the snake knot would be symmetrical, but alas, it is not. And now you're basically done with all the hard stuff. And the only thing remaining is that the shoulders are not impressive, and also they will come undone. So you want to do just an overhand knot again. And we want to make sure they're going in opposite directions. So you can lay it out like that to remind yourself. You want to do this as close as possible to the other shoulder knot, but it is just around and through. And tighten it up as close to the other knot at the shoulder as you can get. And same on the other side. And always flip him over to check. That's good. Very strong shoulders, I think so, yes. So now is the time when you see the legs and arms have come out about equal, even though we started with one shorter and one longer. Now's the time when you decide what stopper knot you want to put on the end. I don't think I have enough for a Turk's head or anything, so I think I'm just going to do barrel knot skin. You can make these symmetrical or not symmetrical as you like, but I do like to. So I'm going to cut again, and then I'm going to do that part really fast for each of the arms and legs. So we have our friend the stick here in case of emergencies, but I think it will be okay because I think there's enough to twist it around my finger, which is easier. So I ran out of room with the feet, and that's where a figure 8 knot comes in handy. And if you have enough space, you can do that a couple times. So I think I'm going to, but I'm also going to make sure it's symmetrical. And if you're going to do figure 8 whipping, figure 8 whipping, no, a figure 8 weave, a fishtail braid. Not the naming of knots is something else, man. You can do it a couple of times, basically. And then on the other side, so I always do the legs before I do the arms, because that way it's easier to get the proportions right, because you can, with the feet, they can be however long they are. You can have a slender man looking fella or a more short sort of one, but people's hands usually end sort of just below the hips. So when I'm tightening these, I'll make sure to tighten them upwards. And as with anything, you can always work the string up and down again. I think this looks pretty good lengthwise. I'm going to make this one match the other one. It's looking a bit low down at the moment. So I'm going to tighten it up, which means we can grab this here and then do just a bit more twisting. That looks pretty good. I console myself with the fact that they're a bit wonky. It's part of their charm. I don't think AI can make these yet. There probably is some sort of manufacturing process. I don't know. Can machines tie things into rope. Nets they can, for sure. Knitting they can, but not crochet. Adjustments. So upon reflection, I should have made the part for the legs longer, but it's okay. I hate wasting paracord, but I'm okay with teeny tiny bits like this. So this is our guy, and then you would do the normal things with a lighter, which I've lost, so I'm cutting the video again to find it. So we have the scissors and we have the fire. If you make this out of cloth rope, I like leaving a little bit of floof for the hands and feet, but this is paracord, so you can burn it, obviously, but please be careful. Be careful and probably use a tool for this. I've got calluses on my hands, so it doesn't really hurt. And there you go. If at this point you messed up the head, you can just take your air drying clay or whatever you want to use. Epoxy, 2-pot epoxy works as well, and you can cover the head with that. I see that like facet of it is a bit tight, so I'm actually gonna, there we go. Oh, little guy. If you do not want to start with a diamond knot at all in any way, shape or form, you can just tie an overhand knot in 4 pieces of string, or if you have a cork or a bead that has large enough hole in it, you can feed the 4 pieces through there around something. So I think I have a better example. With this one, the rope didn't quite go all the way through, so you can see it's just some wool, the 2 bits of string overlying that wool, and then I just pulled them through. So yes, you can start with a bead, or you can add this at the end, but I find making the diamond knots really relaxing, and after all, if you're a knot enthusiast, you probably find that fun too. Otherwise, what are you doing here? But yes, these are my guys. I'm going to try to edit this now. Thank you so much to the kind people of Reddit for all of your suggestions. And I can always do any variations and stuff later. It's nice to have the basic tutorial done.